A bug-eyed half-bat boy on a checkout stand tabloid. A chain email warning your aunt about microwaving Tupperware. A cryptic poster named Q dropping riddles on an anonymous image board. Different decades, same rush, outrageous claims amplified by the hottest tech of the day. Every era has its favorite piece of tech, and every era uses that tech to spread tall tales. The stranger the claim, the faster it moves, and the more engaging it feels, the more we treat it like it might be true. From tabloids at the checkout line to algorithms in your feed, misinformation has always found the tech it needs. Hi, welcome to the Nostalgic Nerds podcast, where we love old gadgets, dead standards, and the weird ways technology shapes culture. I'm Marc Massar, and I'm here with my co-host, Renee Murphy.
Hi.
All right, folks, today we're tracing how misinformation got supercharged by technology. Each decade gives us a new medium, a new distribution system, and with it, a new conspiracy or hoax that feels just real enough to spread. Now, Renee, you wanted to start us off with one of the greats, the legends, the myths. Not Facebook, not chain emails. We're rolling back to the grocery store checkout line.
Yeah, that's right. Right before QAnon, before chain letters, there was Bat Boy.
I feel like we should have like music for Bat Boy. I'll have to find some music.
Or at least flapping wings. It's the early 1990s. You're inching through the supermarket queue. Next to the gum is a thing called Weekly World News, a black and white fever dream. In June of 1992, the front page announces the discovery of Bat Boy, allegedly found in a West Virginia cave. Now hang on there, because all conspiracy theories have a grain of truth, right? And while it sounds crazy that there might be a half man, half human thing, as soon as you say living in a cave in West Virginia, I'm like, maybe.
Possible.
It's possible. I've been to West Virginia. It could happen. And
There's
just for
big
those
caves
listening,
there.
the Weekly World News turned him into their star. They had a couple recurring characters on the Weekly World News, but not many. Bat Boy was one that just kept showing up over and over and over again. First, he escapes the scientists. Then he bites Santa. He goes to space. He endorses Al Gore. He helps win the war on terror. Nah, he didn't just help. He was the guy who told them where Saddam Hussein was. He found him in the hole. That was Bat Boy. Bat Boy found him in the hole. And the paper had 1.6 million subscribers. Mark, let's put that into context for a second, right? Because Rolling Stone, because that's what I was reading in 1992. I was reading Rolling Stone. Their subscription coverage was about 800,000. So half as many people were listening to the sober truth of bands like Whitesnake. Instead, they were reading about Bat Boy. Vogue had their subscribers, had about 1.6 million. So the same amount of people reading Vogue were getting the Weekly World News to keep up with Bat Boy. It wasn't about
same audience. I could see a lot of
right.
overlap.
That Venn diagram is a 100% overlap. It's Vogue readers, Bat Boy believers, and the people who think the World Wrestling Federation is real. That Venn diagram is 100% overlap. I didn't need an algorithm to tell me that. So it wasn't about truth, though. It was about impact. The tabloid engineered attention before going viral was the thing. It had unforgettable images, outrageous headlines, placed right where you couldn't avoid them, next to Jennifer Anderson on the TV Guide. And it worked. Bat Boy became a pop culture mascot. Musicals, there's a bunch of high schools around me are doing Bat Boy the musical. It's just a really popular high school musical, right? Late night jokes. He leaked out of the paper and into the culture. I remember Bat Boy. Bat Boy to me was exactly what you needed to understand what that paper was about. It was satirical ridiculousness, unless, of course, Mark, you believed it.
Well, I'm not sure I believed it, but the checkout stand was sort of like the original algorithm. It's, put the wildest story where everyone would see it. And that sensationalism is the engagement strategy in and of itself. Now, I remember seeing the National Enquirer and the Weekly World News, but I just never assumed that people took the Weekly World News seriously. One of my grandmothers was a National Enquirer buyer, like go over to her house and I'd see it around. But, it was like celebrity tabloid stuff and, grainy pictures and that. I didn't really pay attention to that. Is there anything that, stands out about Bat Boy? I really only have kind of surface level knowledge. I didn't see Bat Boy. Like
So
any other
here's the thing.
factoids?
Like here, you know what? Like if you found Bat Boy on the West Coast, he definitely would have been a chupacabra. So I'm not saying that Bat Boy in West Virginia wasn't exact. Maybe it was the chupacabra. Who knows, right?
Maybe.
But here's what I'll say: the National Enquirer actually owned Weekly World News.
There you go.
And in my mind, like they would get tips like, Congress is made of lizard people, right? And they'd be like, is that right? And obviously, the National Enquirer can't come out and say, because your grandmother would have been like, you've all lost your mind. There's not a bunch of lizards being disguised as Congress people running the country. Like they're not lizard people. That's crazy. Except you could put that in the Weekly World News. So for me, the Weekly World News, if it was just too crazy to be in the National Enquirer, like it was just too ridiculous, it ends up in the Weekly World News. And you can't tell me, Mark, because it would have been my pastime had I known this was going on to call them and give them leads on stuff that were so crazy that maybe I might see it in the Weekly World News one day.
I remember seeing the iconic UFO picture, I think that UFO picture probably got reposted every other week or something.
There's one where like Kennedy's shaking hands with the aliens. Like,
yeah.
It's ridiculous. It was like you should have known when you were reading it. Like it's just like The Onion, right? As a matter of fact, for me, it was like Weekly World News for my ridiculous satirical, like whatever. And then I found The Onion and realized I should have gone to the University of Wisconsin because that's journalism over there, right? And so, so for me, it was like it should have been obvious. But I think for a lot of people, and where Bat Boy, you could look at that and say, well, come on. But they used to do other weird things. Like, you can catch a cold by using a coffee cup from, a particular place. Like all that stuff that we look at now and we say, this stuff online where eat a Tide Pod. Like I could imagine you'd read about that in Weekly World News first, and then someone would go try it. Right?
No, that makes sense. That's like pre-TikTok.
Right. Yeah. But misinformation isn't any new. It's not. There's nothing new about that. The Donner Party. I know we remember them for eating their own.
I know you love the Donner Party.
I love this. I'm stuck in it too. Like I have read now in the last like 3 months, every book ever written on it. And I'm running out of like sources. Like I'm looking for books written by people who were related to the people who were in the Donner Party. Like I'm just looking for books to read. But here's what I find really interesting about the whole story. Yes, they went to the Sierra, and yes, it was the worst storm ever. And yes, they did result in everybody having to do what they needed to do to survive. And it's awful. But what's really awful about it is the only reason they were there is because some idiot wrote a book. He'd never been there. All he knew was we just stole that part of the world from the Mexicans and they were coming back. And if he didn't get a bunch of people there to claim land, and when the Mexicans came back, then it'd be just him. He couldn't defend the land. So he tells everybody sitting in Independence, where it was Independence, Illinois, and they're all sitting in Independence, Illinois, and he writes a book and he says there's another passage and it's all flat until you get to the Sierras, but the Sierras are fine. You could take the wagon through it. You come drop down the other side into Truckee and bam, you're home free in California. You should take that route. He'd never seen it. He'd never done it. He didn't know anything about it. One guy tried it. He tried it without a wagon train. He tried it on horse, told everybody, don't go that way.
Don't do that.
They all said, you're crazy. They wrote a book about it. And there they went. right? So in my mind, like disinformation and misinformation and people saying stuff out of turn where they are no way experts of what they're talking
Yeah.
about, but we take them at their word. Like all of that has been going on since the 1840s and definitely before then. Like this
Yeah.
is nothing new. And you're right. I think in your intro, you were right. You said it, no matter what the era, no matter what the technology, like the printing press is where it started.
That's right. Well, even before that, just word of mouth, right? As you said.
Right.
Yeah.
It's why we still talk about Bigfoot
Yeah.
because he's
Humans,
real. Oh,
as
I'm
long
sorry.
as
What?
there's been language, people have been talking out of their ass.
Oh, oh no, he's real. All right. Okay. Go ahead. I believe in a couple conspiracies and Bigfoot is one of them.
All right. Okay. Well, look, by the mid 90s, the rumor engine plugs into dial up, though. It's not just papers, at the newsstand or at the groceries, checkout aisle. Urban legends jump from copy desks to inboxes. And the killer feature on this, my favorite, that shiny forward button and the reply all, I remember there's a message and you hit reply all and then everybody hits reply all and then the reply all to the reply all and they forward it and you move it all around. Chain emails. And this really, a chain email is a form of the previous generation's chain letter, promised doom if you didn't pass them on. The USPS estimates that about 2.2 billion chain letters were sent in the post between 1970 and 2000.
Okay.
So this is kind of funny. One famous case, this guy Craig Sherwood, it ended with him getting about 250 million get well cards sent to his home.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
Isn't that nuts? All because of this chain letter kind of process, and then chain emails takes that and steps it up, a tenfold. Now, regardless of that medium, letters or email, we send or receive crafted messages with urban myths, right? Kidneys stolen in ice bathtubs, needles at gas pumps, perfume sample laced with sedatives, right? I remember the razor blades and the candy, at Halloween time.
Don't lick the envelopes in the ATM machine.
Right. I mean, there's just a bunch of these, right? Mars looking as big as the moon, and you can really tell what's real. Is it WebMD or Joe from accounting? There's this sort of unknown trust position. Is it fact or is it fiction? And that unknown trust position, it comes from, is the source reliable? Is it unreliable? And when it's these, somebody that you trust, somebody that it's like, well, that I guess that could be true. It could be true. I mean, if it gets in print, right, and gets sold at the grocery store, I guess it could be true, right?
Why would they lie? Why would they lie?
Right. Why would they
Why?
lie? Yeah, and I think that's where Snopes came in. It's this slow, nerdy, meticulous fact checking. And they turned debunking into a total culture. I remember like my first encounter with Snopes. I think it was probably at the .com. And like I remember you and I both like Snopes and the Onion were probably it was like we probably had those on our screens more than
All day.
any other, non-work related thing. But that whole debunking thing, turned into a total culture.
It did. My first chain myth thing was I was getting a lot of emails from the family saying, don't use deodorant. I'm like, no, why? And they're like, oh, it's got metal in it. Like, what kind of metal? Like mercury. Like, are you sure? First of all,
Aluminum.
like, are you sure? Like, and then they would be like, it clogs up your pores, and then it causes cancer. Like, wait, what causes cancer? The clogged up pores? Because that doesn't make any sense either. Why is that cancerous? So this goes on and on and on until I finally tell them no, and you can't die from licking an ATM envelope. I don't know why you would lick it. I don't think that other people. I mean, I think it's possible other people would lick it and put it back. It's weird, but it's totally possible. You can get to those envelopes just as much as anybody else, but there was crazy stuff. But you know what I remember from .com that I think qualifies now as spam, and we did it with reckless abandon. It was. Do you remember Battle Mail? Do you remember Battle Mail?
Oh, I remember Battle Mail. Oh my gosh. I
I
love
feel
Battle
like
Mail.
that was our chain letter, Battle Mail.
Oh my gosh.
So for those of you who don't know, at the very beginning of .com, you're desperate for games. You're desperate for ways to just waste time. And there was this game server somewhere, and Mark, you can probably explain it better than me, but you would say, I challenge you. I would say to Mark, I challenge you to a battle mail, and I send it over email. And then he clicks a link and I click a link. And then we do 3 karate moves. I do 3, he does 3. Then it goes back, you email it back to a game server.
Yeah.
And then the game server plays out the game. I go first, you go. Did I win? Great. I go, you go. Did I win or did you win? And then we get the results back and we're sitting next to each other going, no, come on, you kicked me in the head. And this went on all day long.
Yeah.
And we were sitting next to each other, sending stuff to God knows where. Right?
Yeah.
Back and forth over email with insecure links. I mean, talk about malware. I mean, so much of the stuff we did back then was malware, but like, that's one of those things where I feel like that's just spam. It's just crap spam. And we did it all the time.
Yeah. I remember Battle Mail and I tried finding like any kind of archive or any kind of, images or anything. It was probably a year or more ago, just to see like what happened to it. Like, where did it go? What
did it turn into?
What did it turn into? Right. And I couldn't
You know what?
find
In all honesty, eToys probably bought it. They probably thought that was their foray. Now I'm just dragging eToys for no reason.
No.
And if you were around back then, you'd be dragging them too. All right. But anyway, I think that one where it was like you can die from the deodorant was a good one. But I also thought of all of them, it was like, Renee, when you're traveling, definitely don't drink anything at a bar because someone will drug you and steal your kidney. Like that was like people would call me to tell me that one. Like, don't let anyone steal your kidney. Like that's not a real thing. Like no one can surgically remove your kidney while you're drunk. Like it can't be done. And then leave you in your hotel bathtub on ice.
With the ice. Yeah.
Like that. No, that doesn't happen.
No.
But try debunking that. Try debunking that in today with AI, where you can actually have a photo and what looks like a headline and what looks like a legitimate article. And then it's printed by RT because those people are crazy. They'll print anything. And now all of a sudden it's in the bloodstream of the news organizations. It's crazy how fast it all happens, right? So for you, what was it? What was it for you? Your first chain mail?
It was probably political stuff. I don't, I didn't get a lot of the, kidneys or needles or any of that stuff. It was, political emails like this president or this congressperson or whatever did some stupid thing. And, now we're all, up in arms about whatever. It didn't even really matter which party it was about. I don't remember what the subject was. I just remember who sent it, because he would send it a lot. And I remember just seeing it and like, this can't be true. And then I jump onto Snopes, you read it, it's false. And it was kind of like, man, that sucks. Because the guy that sent it to me, I was, it's somebody I trusted. And it felt like it broke that trust. That wasn't a great feeling. And then you go, well, now I'm on a mission, right? To teach this guy, hey, whatever you
I'm
sent.
going to give him all the sourcing of everything I know to be the truth.
Yeah. Look, this is I found this on Snopes, and then you did, and then this, and this is the press release of this thing, and here's what actually happens, and guess what? You just,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I failed, right?
Doesn't matter. I don't care. No matter what you tell me, Bigfoot's real. So it doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. There's no, and this is the thing, especially with those kinds of cryptid things, it's hard to prove a negative, right?
You can tell me we've never found an actual one. There's never been any bones. How come you don't?
Yeah.
Like there's 1,000 things you could tell me, and I would still tell you. Yeah. I don't care. And then you could tell me, but Renee, you do understand that bears just stomp around the Alaskan wilderness like no one's business, and they're very big and brown, and probably that's what they're looking at. And I would tell you, yeah, but that guy said I know what a bear looks like, and it's not a bear, right? Everybody can defend their own side, and I think in today, and I think this is why in the end, and we'll talk about it soon, like the lie that was QAnon, like the joke, the
Yeah.
ridiculousness that was QAnon, took on such an important role in people's lives because it just hit at the wrong time. It hits during
Right.
COVID, right? It's those things where we've gotten to the point now where it's not truth, it's faith. I believe harder than you do. It's all it is. I
I love.
believe harder than you do.
Yeah.
And for
Oh,
that I
yeah.
win and my truth is right. Because I believe harder, right? I think that's really hard to get past. There's no arguing that. There's no trying to get you to see my point of view. It's not based in truth. It's based in faith. And that's really hard to
Yeah.
jaw like out of
You can't
people's
change that.
hands.
You
Yeah.
can't change it.
Yeah.
But I think, that, we talked about this before, right? The step up in technology, the behavior of people doesn't change, right? People just talk to make stuff up, and then it gets spread using whatever the means are of the current day. And the technology has advanced so rapidly in the last, 20, 30 years. It's like, okay, we went from print to letters to email, but email is different, right? Because the scalability of
Mhm.
email is so much bigger, right? And I think that's that it starts to spread and goes, kind of it gets crazy. It's like wildfire because you can forward that. It's the barrier for publishing is so low and the reach is so broad that that engagement, it just becomes
That
so
literally is the theme of it all, though, right?
yeah,
Like everything's copacetic, everything's moving along just fine. You interject technology in it, and that technology creates a level of efficiency that we've never seen
right.
before. And that efficiency is weaponized within 3 minutes, right? Like that's how it turns. Because with the chain email comes the Nigerian prince who needs your money,
Right.
right? Like in no time at all. And when it's that, and when it can, when it has that kind of reach, and you say that a lot, actually, you talk about that a lot. That this technology so like can the velocity of it is so fast and it can go so wide that it really is the next paradigm of whatever the hell it is, whether it's catalogs or misinformation or electricity usage or notifications from your, like, no matter what it is, right? Like you get a level of efficiency in the technology and then we have no control over it. It goes viral. Like we really can't control it. Like the internet's gone. It's gone. I don't
Well,
know.
we could come back to internet and the dead internet theory some other time because
It's
I think
gone.
we have a few other pieces to kind of piece together on
Yeah,
this.
so
But
let's talk about 4chan because I never understood that. That was way beyond me. I was
well,
already an old lady for 4chan.
yeah, I mean the vector on this, it shifts again, right? And the defense mechanism around email grows and adapts. And you mentioned it with Battleman. You said, you used the word spam, right? You think about it, when we were doing that at the .com, we didn't have like a plugin on the server side that weeded out the spam and stuff, right? We could block domains and stuff like that, and then you had a little bit of client side functionality. But the as the email servers started serving more spam, then they started serving real email. Then email admins, they they put in acceptable use policies, and they try to protect those email servers from overload.
But the fact that we
And
had email admins, we had people dedicated
I
to
know,
doing nothing but managing that server.
I know, no, it's crazy.
Crazy.
That the opportunity to spread that information though is hampered when that starts to shift. So you have this influx of just bombarding people with email, and then email starts to kind of tail off, and spam and filtering and stuff gets a little bit better, and so you make a jump to the next platform, and we start to see things shift from the inbox to image boards. Now, image boards might not be something that people are super familiar with, but it starts out of the forums and bulletin boards and things like that. But it morphs and it's got its own kind of path in history. But you have these image boards that are anonymous, You don't have any kind of identity checks or anything. It's an open mic for anybody and everybody simultaneously. And the most popular one, or let's say the most infamous one, is 4chan. And 4chan popularizes memes. They're fast, they're anonymous, they're chaotic. And if you think about identity, if identity is cheap, posting is cheap, ideas, good or toxic, they evolve rapidly. Every generation, it's like fruit flies. So tell me a little bit about, how we've moved from that spam filtering and email, admin and things. And how does that kind of stop the evolution of some of the email stuff that then equips us to go into the next
Well, that's
generation?
just it, right? Like all that stuff we put into place, the spam filters, the spear phishing stuff, the like all those things that we live with email now, because it's come to that. It's being
Yeah.
used as a source of. I started my first day at a research firm. The first day I get an email from the CEO saying, "Renee, I need your help. I'm stuck in confinement. I need you to send me this amount of money. Don't tell anybody. And I will pay you back when I get to the office." And I said back to what is clearly someone trying to steal my money, right? I send an email back saying, "David, I can't negotiate with terrorists. Neither should you. I can call the State Department, though, my State Department, because as you know, I'm in America." So it goes on. And finally, this guy gets tired of trying to convince me to give him money and he leaves me alone. But I go to HR and I say, "Hey, I don't think the spam filter's tight enough. I'm getting this stuff." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, you know what? Somebody actually sent him money." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He still thinks this is
Oh,
fertile hunting ground. This is crazy, right? It was absolutely crazy. So when you think about we put all this stuff in place to protect the employees and protect the data and protect that interface, right? That porous interface that has access into our
yeah.
environment. We do all, and then to get past that, we're like, hang on a minute, message board, you say? I don't have to
Right.
deal with any of that. I'm coming. I'm coming. If I can talk to you in almost real time, and I can post crap, and I can do it anonymously, and
Yeah.
you're all pretty funny. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna come over there, right? So as I look at even at Teams, chat, all that stuff, it's just an answer to emails too much.
Yeah.
That's too old. It's too cumbersome. It's too much. I'm going to talk to you this way because we can engage on this level and it makes more sense for me, right?
That's right.
So my need for velocity and its inability to keep up with my velocity is why I think email has become one of those things where it's obligatory to look at, but it's not super helpful, right?
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I agree. I think, with the evolution from email to image boards and forums and posting and things, anonymity becomes an amplifier. It optimizes for throughput, right? I can literally just jump on and drop an image and be gone. You don't have to worry about reputation. So you play around more, you get more, offensive. You remix faster, you push those boundaries further, and then as 4chan does its thing, it evolves as well, and then becomes 8chan, or not becomes, but 8chan sort of spawns out of this thing, and they get even further. Moderation is gone pretty much. Anything goes on 8chan. Email chains proliferation tended to be more like deep and narrow. With image boards, the audience is broader, wider, and the scale is, it scales rapidly in viewership. You're literally reaching,
The
hundreds,
world.
tens, thousands, instantly. And
Yeah.
then what amplifies that even more is that 4chan and 8chan then sort of jump over the line from illegitimate and kind of jokes and memes to Reddit. Reddit then goes to Facebook, Twitter, whatever. As soon as it jumps those lines, that's where it then kind of takes on a new life of its own.
I remember watching a documentary about Anonymous, the hacking collective Anonymous,
Oh yeah.
and them saying that 8chan was the most fun. And what they were doing on 8chan was they were harassing other people. So they would do things like if they found out an online game was being racist, they would go hack that online game and just be a jerk. right? So, and they were really thinking it was funny until people started showing up in real life dressed like the characters that they were letting loose in the games and like harassing people. And that's when they realized, oh, hang on a minute. We can go from the virtual world where we're
Right.
making fun of people and it can come to the, hang on a minute, we can really do this. We can get people to show up for stuff in Guy Fawkes masses, just show up with
Yeah,
stuff,
I know.
and really protest. We can actually do something. Let's do something good. And that's when they start outing all the Scientologists and then all of the KKK people I mean, they go after everybody. They dox everybody after that. And every time somebody does something bad, they dox them now. Like
Yeah.
that was them saying, I understand now that I can start something on 8chan and forget Instagram, forget Facebook, forget
Yeah.
Twitter. Like, yeah, it'd be great if it went there, but I can get it to show up in Milwaukee. Like
Yeah.
that's power. Like that's real power. And I think that for me is like those sites aren't hosting rumors. They're turning rumor making into a real world game. A
Yeah.
real world game.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's where it gets really, really weird for me. It just gets really weird for me.
It does get weird. And we talk about, Storm Area 51 in a second, but that's for me, I always get a little uncomfortable around doxing, regardless of the motivation. Because who decides, right? Just because somebody did something you don't like, does that mean that's grounds for doxing them, right? Sure, people are bad and do deplorable things, and maybe they should be held accountable for that.
Oh,
But
you know what?
who
It's a
gets to decide?
generational thing. So here, I'll tell you this. In the Edelman Trust Barometer study for 2025, it turns out we're in the age of grievance, but that's not even the most interesting thing. The most interesting thing is 47% of people in the ages between 18 and 24 believe that physical violence is a way to have your political views heard.
That's rough.
And they make no differentiation between political figures, CEOs, CFOs, church leaders. They make no differentiation. They're saying, hey, if the only way I can get you to listen to me is blowing up Tesla cars, then I'm going to go do it because then you'll listen. Right. And so, like, if that's the backdrop of all that, like, that's really, really kind of scary.
Yeah,
Right.
it
Like,
is. It
that's what
is.
we breed when we breed that disinformation.
Yeah, I think to me that's the tricky bit, right? Is that like when somebody takes that step, they use this, as this launching pad, and what if it's based on misinformation? What if the thing that they're basing this attack on
Dude,
is, it's a lie, it's falsehood.
it's Pizzagate.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about that. In 2016, we have this sort of grim proof of concept, right? And Pizzagate. And it starts out as a fringe message board theory. It jumps, jumps the tracks, moves into Reddit and Twitter and different blogs. People start picking it up. Conspiracy theorists claim a DC pizza restaurant is hiding a trafficking ring. We know it's not true. We know it's fiction, but a dude shows up with a rifle to investigate. Fortunately, no one gets hurt, but it's a turning point. The tabloid absurdity of Bat Boy meets this viral machinery of social media. And suddenly the stakes aren't just laughs and jokes and memes passing around. It's real world danger.
I think this isn't just online anymore. Like that's it. That was one where that guy, I swear to you, like when he showed up, I remember reading the article and the last thing he said out loud in that place before they took him away, he said, I guess I should have checked my sources.
Oh man.
Right? Like in that moment he realized, oh no. Oh, it was
Yeah.
a lie. And I always think about people who leave cults, like how hard that must be because you have to admit it was all a lie and you fell for it. Like that's what those people have to admit in that moment, like it was a lie. But here's the thing, like sometimes it's not even that. Like so Storm Area 51 is my favorite the internet came to life story ever in the history of all stories. If you don't know it because you were asleep during all of this or
I
living in
was
another country.
I was living in another country.
Yeah, living in another country. So this kid was bored one night and he comes home and he posts on Facebook. Creates an event. You know, you can create an event on Facebook and
Yeah,
like leave it
yeah,
open
yeah.
to the public and say anybody can come.
Oh, I do remember this. I do remember this.
Right. And so
Yeah,
he
yeah.
posts a thing and he says, "Hey, let's go storm Area 51. They can't stop us all, can they?" And
Ugh.
like he laughs about it and he goes to bed. He gets up the next morning. It has 300,000 likes and
Oh my gosh.
300,000 people say they're going to be there. And he's like, "Wait a minute. What's happening? What is Area 51? I don't even know." So he looks it up now because he's that guy who was trying to hang on to Mexico while people were dying in the Sierras. This is him, right? Only he's sitting somewhere in Chicago, not knowing what Nevada looks like. So he realizes at some point, Mark, 3 million people said they were coming to Area 51, which left the federal government to figure out
Panicking.
$10 million later. That's how much money they spent getting ready for 3 million people to rush Area 51. So they have everybody there and they're doing the training for it. They're like, okay, like, and they're sitting in a war room planning.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're shoot to kill. And somebody looks at them like, how are we going to get these guys to kill their own peers? Like these are 20-something-year-old kids with guns. And we're telling them you're going to point them at another 20-something-year-old kid
Yeah.
and shoot them. Like, how are we going to do that? And some military guy goes, you're seriously talking about shooting a bunch of nerds? Like you're seriously thinking about that? Like you guys are saying this out loud like it's true. Like you're seriously going to shoot a bunch of nerds? Like what are you talking about? So finally the day comes and at some point the FBI shows up at this kid's door. And they say to him, "Listen, if anything bad happens, if any person gets shot, if anybody tries to cross that line, we're coming for you. For you. You started this." And he's like, "I swear to God, it was a joke. It was a joke." And they couldn't stop it. So he ends up doing a music festival in Las Vegas, so that everybody could come there instead, so they didn't have to rush. And then like maybe 300 people showed up at the gate at Area 51, and they all danced and like wore weird outfits. They pretended to run like they were anime, like the
Oh
whole
my
thing,
God.
right? But the funniest thing about this Area 51 thing, though, and you can watch it, there's a documentary on Netflix, you can watch it. But I thought the funniest thing about that was it was a joke all the way to the end. No one came there to actually storm Area 51. They brought
Yeah.
beer. They came to party. They thought it was Burning Man in front of a military base gate, right? Like that's what they were after. And I look at that and I think to myself, like, it really was a joke. It really got out of hand. And he really was in trouble until he wasn't. And like you look at that and you think it could happen to anybody. Anybody could do that.
Yeah.
Get anybody can get into that kind of trouble because it just shows up in real life. It just shows up in real life.
It's back to that scaling factor, right? It
People came
reached,
from Norway.
yeah,
They came
reached
from Norway.
so many people in such a short amount of time, and that reach is because of the tech. It's because of that, that capability. But once that information or misinformation escapes into the real world, you can't just debunk it away. I like to say you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, instead of the cat out of the bag. But
Or unring that bell.
yeah, unring the bell. Like I like the toothpaste and putting it back in the tube. I've never seen that happen. But the act of debunking it, gives that misinformation sort of a legitimacy in a twisted kind of way. And you see this all the time where a story gets out, gets from a message board, it jumps the tracks, moves into something, and then somebody's, oh, that's not real, or there's people cast doubt on fact finding sources and things like that, and it opens up that discussion and it sort of tolerates it, and that it's this kind of twisted legitimacy. And I think that we're seeing that with some of the other examples, particularly something like QAnon. So let's talk about QAnon. Late in 2017, an anonymous poster calling themselves Q, and Q refers to this kind of top secret level thing that is As far as I know, I think it's made up. I could be wrong there, but I think it's made up. They start dropping cryptic messages on 4chan. And then
Okay,
8chan.
that should have been your first clue. They're dropping them on 4chan where nothing good happens.
That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
go
It should
ahead.
be your first clue.
Go ahead.
But it becomes like a game, and thousands of puzzle-like posts follow. And these puzzles are they're like little riddles and crumbs and hidden messages. It's obfuscation or kind of the concept is steganographic, hiding messages in plain sight. QAnon plays like this sort of alternate reality game with riddles and this collaboration, right? Promise that you solve that puzzle, is a sort of activism, right? And instead of the prize that you get at the end, it's basically a worldview. It opens you up to understanding a deeper truth. And essentially within months, different influencers, kind of more active and influential accounts on these boards, they start to translate, quote unquote, translate the drops, which is what they're called, onto Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and more on 4chan and more on 8chan. And suddenly it's not so fringe anymore. It's mainstream, and people are talking about, QAnon and the drops and, these conspiracy theories. And then the platforms amplify because the posts drive engagement. I think, and we'll have to come back to engagement models, some other time. But I think it's a really key concept to understand, and I think that's why it's important to talk about. But I think some other topic. But the impact of the algorithm, you're right. The impact is that the factual position of the thing that you're sharing is actually irrelevant, and the misinformation, even benign, gets more eyes. More eyes means higher rankings. Higher rankings means more eyes. And the game is about how many, eyes you can get.
But then I go back to the idea that, like, we like games. Like, why else would someone do practice drafts for their fantasy
Why would they
football?
lie? Why
They
would they
lie.
lie?
But I mean, but you create this, so you take what is kernels of truth, things that are actually happening. You're taking
Yeah.
things that are actually happening, right? And you're creating this woven reality with those facts that aren't based in any reality, right? You're creating this world around it.
Yep.
Remember when we used to play religiously, when we were not playing Battle Mail, we would play HSX, Hollywood Stock Exchange.
Oh yeah, Hollywood Stock
Right.
Exchange.
Right, and then we would invest in like real movies that were
Yeah.
fake. Like this whole trading market was entirely built on it was like trading on the New York Stock Exchange, but you were doing it with fake money on real films. And so
I still have an HSX account.
see, you know what? I made real like Titanic money on that. I just want you to know. I'm a Titanic billionaire. So okay, so here. So here's but that's what I think it is. I think that you look at that and you say, you take these little kernels of truth, you paint them on a canvas of not real canvas, and those kernels of truth like start to really take hold, and then all your personal biases are playing against you at every turn, right? So for me, on one hand, I think it fills that need of, I need to be connected to a group, I want to participate in something, I'm getting dopamine hits from it, I feel like I'm part of a community, and I'm doing it at a time when we're all locked down and I can't go to my church and I can't go to my school and I can't be with my friends, and I have to find another way to stay connected. I think COVID really jacked us up that way. I think we wouldn't have as many problems now if we weren't stuck at home for a year. I think that really sent a lot of people down a weird rabbit hole. But I mean, you like games. Like I would think you would really be into the idea that, I can go rig an algorithm and make something move. But the thing that you're making move is driven by outrage and grievance. Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that sort of engagement loop is part of it. The puzzle itself is part of it. Like what is this hidden meaning that's there, right? And people get invested in the process, invested in these messages, and it becomes harder to sort of disengage with it because you've got the sunk costs around it. And not just that, but
that's a good way to put it, sunk cost, because there's a couple biases that are really, really hard to overcome.
oh yeah.
And one of them is, I've already put all this time and effort into it. I can't walk away from it now. Right? Like
Right.
that's sunk cost. Like I can't
How many
walk away.
projects have we been on? Right.
I can't walk away.
I
Doesn't
can't.
matter
I've
how
spent
crazy
20
it is.
million bucks on this platform.
Yeah, it's
I
gonna work.
it's gonna work. Yeah. Yeah. No, we've done that so many times, but I think that, on a personal note, people get well, and certainly you talk about the games, it could be lots of different things. Anything that gives you that little hit of dopamine, right? But my wife loves Candy Crush. She probably hate that I'm going to say that, but she loves Candy Crush, and she's super invested in it because she's done thousands of the levels. And it'd probably be difficult for her to say, "Well, I'm just going to stop," because she's gone through that process, and that's no problem. It doesn't bother me, but that sunk cost, right? If you've been playing the QAnon game, right, and you've got a following, and you've got, you know, you've
And your
done you've
following
gone
is
through the process.
monetized. You're making money off this. Like this is like how
Potential,
you earn a living at this point. Like you let it go and
yeah,
you're not just out of the cult, you're out of money.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely monetization around some of that activity. I think it's a small percentage, and that's even tricky too, right? Like there's only probably a handful of people that are making money on monetization around conspiracy theories and puzzles and QAnon, right? But the fact is that, like, because there are a couple people that maybe are making a little bit of money, then everybody believes that they could too, right? Like if I just unpick this one puzzle, and if I can get the information out of
Oh,
this and then do my own drop,
like that
and
crazy
post
lady
on
who was
YouTube.
driving around Canada looking for places to park her RV with the people who were living with her in the RV, and they were just a bunch of QAnon people. And Canada wouldn't let them park the RV anywhere. They had to go back to Oregon.
Yeah, I think that it's that dopamine hit, right? You post something, you've got followers, they repost something, somebody comments on something, you're constantly watching it, and
And
your
you feel
brain
like
just
you
keeps
know
saying more.
something. You feel
Yeah,
like you know something, and you know something somebody else doesn't know. And that's really powerful for people who don't pay attention.
yeah, and it doesn't even matter what the theory is, right? Conspiracy theories around QAnon range just
Yeah, they're kind of all over the
political.
place.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
over the place. Political spectrum, there's the Epstein stuff, there's the Pizzagate, in a weird different satanic cults, and people are going to get arrested, and the government isn't actually the government, it's a corporation.
And they're
That's
lizard
my favorite.
people, and they are
Lizard
lizard
people,
people, and we're
right?
sheeple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think, and that's that, because the mechanism, the engine has been created and it's been successful, right? That puzzle loop just keeps running and running. And so any new piece of news, any new piece of, theory that gets into a drop, or something that's similar to that mechanism, because QAnon's less relevant now, but there's other types of these coded messages and hints and things, and every little bit of news, that mechanism, you can see it happen all over again because the patterns have been set. So let's talk about some of those patterns across multiple decades, right? The pattern repeats over and over. You've got some new technology, some new incentive around that. Misinformation rides that slipstream. So we talked about tabloids to email to boards to algorithmic feeds, right? We built some guardrails, fact checkers, platform policies, researchers, right? But they don't replace the habits, pause, check, compare, click out of the walled garden. And the other thing that they haven't replaced or haven't changed is the money, right? And the incentive around the algorithm itself. So if I could give, 1990s Mark one tool to survive 2025 misinformation, I'd probably give 1990s Mark a lot of different things. And I'm not sure I would give him a tool to survive misinformation, but let's say one tool, it'd be a friction button. Anything wildly engaging gets a cooldown, and you got to have two links to primary sources. I think this would stop so much of this happening, right? You read the headline, maybe you even read an article or you read a post that somebody made, but then you got to wait. You've got to like set it off to the side for a few minutes, and there has to be like real primary sources, something to.
Your young self is being very, very kind by putting all the burden on you. I think the burden belongs on the providers. So I think you shouldn't get pass-through indemnification. If crazy stuff is being said on your platform and it's making people go do crazy things, you should be held liable. And I don't think you should be getting away with that. It shouldn't be, it's on your news feed. I can't help what people post. No, you can. You've chosen not to. Like, I can't help it if it's mostly racist. No, you can. You choose not to. You're making too much money on the crazy racist. That's why you care. Like, it's that idea that we're tribal. We will be forever, right?
Yeah,
we will be forever. And we've also learned that the more anonymous you allow us to be, the meaner and nastier we get.
Yes.
Right? Because if there's no accountability, then I'll say whatever I want. You don't know who I am. I'm never going to meet you. I don't care what I say about you. It made me feel better. So that's all that matters. Like that idea has to end.
I agree. We talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about, how each generation has its method of passing misinformations. And I think that's, it just keeps coming back to that same theme, right? The technology changes and the behavior doesn't change, but what does change is the reach, the scale and scope. And that I think is we're just not equipped for that. But from Bat Boy, to QAnon, the characters have changed. I'm gonna have to look back on Bat Boy and Santa. I really want to see this. I want to figure out what happened.
It's an actual cover. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look at that. The characters change, but the algorithm stays the same. You kind of surprise, engage, and repeat.
And remember, if a headline bites you at the checkout line or the timeline or your news feed, maybe don't adopt it as a pet.
All right, folks, this has been the Nostalgic Nerds podcast. If you enjoyed this tour, share it with a friend, rate the show, click subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
I'm Renee Murphy.
I'm Marc Massar. Tweet careful out there and keep being nerdy. Oh, and Renee wants you to go see Bat Boy the musical if you can. Thanks, everybody.